Hello everybody, my name is Skybound.
Starlight Flux.
And we've just got finished watching season 9, episode 22 of My Little Pony Friendship is Magic, which is something about growing up.
Well, it's more about not skipping the parts of growing up and not seeing it, because it was kind of a really simple but important message. I will say that much. Because it was basically...
I personally think its importance is debatable because we don't actually have the capacity in real life to skip our childhood altogether. Really,
no, but I think it's more about the whole... yeah, I suppose you could say that, but it does make a point of, it's all the... mistakes you make throughout life that are learning experiences.
It's a moral more aimed at kind of the target audience of the show, I would say.
Yeah, definitely.
Kind of pointing out that being an adult isn't just kind of being...
It's not just all
bigger.
It's not just being bigger and being able to do all the good stuff in life. It's about dealing with things like... it's about responsibilities, bills, and do not talk to me about that. I'm moving flat, right? Because I will be getting a mortgage within the next month or so. So it's like, I know full well all the responsibilities of being adult because I'm having to deal with a lot of them. I am actually going through the ton of paperwork.
Anyway, back on track.
The point is I know my point is, it's things like that you don't realise. You sometimes have to go through a little bit of, you have to go through all the boring shit first. The boring stuff that you really don't want to do to get to the stuff that you want. Sometimes you pay for what you want by going through all the boring stuff. So, you're right. It is more aimed at the target audience. It's not like some other messages which could be some adults don't even learn. It's.
A lot of it seems to be more like it's all very well being bigger. From the outside looking in, you're taller. You're sort of more. Adult looking, but the problem is you're not an adult without the kind of mentality
and experience, basically.
And I suppose in a way you could translate that into a kind of respect the experience that others have gone through. I think a kind of respect your elders type of message, which is an important one.
Yeah, but it also said that the elders can't always be, the trouble is they didn't show that, elders can be wrong. It was more lip service that. It was a lip service, it wasn't actually a real it wasn't really displayed, but it was more hinted at, and it wasn't that actual core part of the message. It was more a case of, just because you have to go through the experience to become older, essentially. So you're right, it's more geared towards the core, audience.
Yeah,
and I think, to be fair, it's a CM's episode. It's kind of somewhat expected. Apart from the real life-changing ones they had, it was going to happen. I mean, the chances are this is the last one we'll ever have.
Yeah.
Because we're coming up to, we may have some delays with that anyway. We're not sure when we're going to be able to record that, but we're trying to get it all recorded in time.
The implication of this episode is basically being an adult isn't just...
It isn't just fun.
It's not...
When you're younger, you think being an adult's fun because you can do whatever you want, but then you realise when you grow up through years of, let's say, heartache and pain, but sometimes just because you can do what you want doesn't mean you should.
And technically, you can't always do what you want.
Yeah.
I can't go into work and, skateboard around the office,
Well, you could, but there would be consequences, and that's what I'm saying. But sometimes if you do something,
Sometimes I might want to do X, but I've got a responsibility that
and if you don't do responsibilities, there will be consequences for not doing responsibilities. But the thing is, when you're younger, you have a filter on life, and you don't notice all the pain and all the stress that adults are going through to get the good parts of life which you notice. You're only focusing on the good, so you only see the good stuff. Or if you don't notice all the effort it takes to actually get to the good stuff.
I suppose when you're a child, a lot of what you hear is, you'll be able to do that when you're older, or you need to be a bit older, you need to be a bit bigger to do this. You need to be taller to go on this ride, you need to be...
there's a lot of limitations.
Older to play this game. It's all kind of...
There's a lot of limitations when you're younger,
But there's a lot of limitations when you're an adult too.
Yeah.
But when you're a child and you're looking at that, you basically think that grown-up, that adult, they can do whatever they want. The fact is...
Well, no, it's not that they can do whatever you want. They can do all the stuff you want to do.
Essentially,
but they don't realise that there's stuff that they can do that we can't. So
I suppose
it's a sort of grass is always greener situation. But I think as far as the story's concerned, I think I wouldn't call it the best story in the world. I wouldn't call it the worst. But it's as far as the actual story, because we get onto the other stuff later. I think the story would be about a 6. It didn't feel like a 7. And calling it average, I wouldn't call it average story. There's been a lot worse ones than that I would consider average. So I'm going to give it a 6. Because the message, I think the message is still important, but I think it's more important for the audience. So
I can't help.
And the 7, to give it a 7, I think it would have to be anybody would have learned from this, and then for like 8 and 9, it would have to be a really good flipping oh my god episode sort of levels, So
I thought the flower thing was a bit of a kind of
that was another reason why. That's the reason why I gave it a point down, because it was a Deus Ex Machina.
Essentially, what I'm trying to say is they could have learnt this a different way.
Yeah, they could.
Because clearly they weren't stopped from going to the train station.
Yeah.
What could have stopped them from, as fillies, getting on the train and ending up in the wrong place? Essentially, if we took away the factor of they've been turned into adults, what could we actually sort of... could we take any... Would the story meaningly change? Like the only thing
you're right. It wouldn't have changed if they were still fillies in the end up. Actually, I tell you what, it would change. Those other ponies wouldn't have. The ponies that were older than them wouldn't even listen to them at that point, because essentially they wouldn't have ended up in that situation if they weren't older.
Maybe, but would that have changed the consequences of the situation? Because the male stallion, the colt, whose name I can't remember at this point, he was taking the whatever it was, I can't remember the name of it, the weird blue creature thing, to the festival anyway, despite the fillies protest.
That's a good point. I didn't.
Would it change if they were stopped?
No,
and spoken to by.
It wouldn't have. I think you're right. It would have still. I could see.
I don't feel like them being turned into adults actually made any.
I think it did add
to
something to the entertainment value, which I'll get onto, and I think there's a reason why we did this. And I'll get into that into the entertainment bit. But as far, so would you agree with the assessment of 6, for example?
I would say 6, just because I feel like the whole idea of turning them into adults could have been completely skipped.
So even if I was going to give it a 7, I think I would have dropped it down to a 6 then. So I think so for humour wise, I think it was funny. It was definitely. I wouldn't say laugh out loud funny, but it was definitely humorous.
Yeah, there were some genuinely kind of humorous sort of things. I did find it quite funny how pretty much every single person they asked all said the same thing. It was just like, oh, you could get lost, something terrible could have happened to you.
And now they would and I found it quite funny how they were oblivious to the fact that, hang on a minute, You continue. Well, I'll just log back into the laptop because it's decided to lock itself.
The humour of the episode mostly came with some of the more kind of dry humour, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean...
I did quite like when Fluttershy kind of basically said exactly what happened when...
Yeah, but okay, I have to admit, the fact that they called that out was actually just from the fact there was a swirling thing. It's like how she was spot on point, and that look... I mean, that adds to the animation, so I suppose.
Yeah, the kind of deadpan kind of. Yeah, that's what happened.
Yeah, I mean that was actually kind.
It wasn't. It wasn't
I did
shock. It wasn't anger. It was resignation.
Yeah, but the funny thing is, right? The funny thing is that if they were actually paying attention to the village in the first place as well, because you know, and the fact that they were like completely oblivious to how annoyed the village were about this, because when they were talking, when they went off on a complete tangent after, that was quite funny as well.
Yeah, so that was quite good when they just completely went off topic to talk about the flower, and they were just sort of left there like.
Yeah, I mean, so and I mean to be fair, it's like if. But yeah, so that means it. So yeah, I think it was definitely humorous. I think giving it a 6. I mean, would you consider it a 6 rather than a 7? I mean,
I'm trying to think if there were any kind of other standout comedy moments apart from.
I think it was funny, but there wasn't any. Oh my god, that was hilarious sort of things. Like there's some episodes where there's things that will become a meme essentially in the fandom because it's so bloody funny, like the whole Discord glass of water thing. You know, it's not that levels. It's more like it was more the way it was done rather than there wouldn't be something I could pick out particularly. And I think the only reason why I'll remember this particular episode is for 2 reasons, and that is because and I'll get onto that later actually, but. You know, so I think humour, I don't think it warrants a 7. I think a 6 is probably good.
Yeah, I would say that's fair.
And animation, I would say the animation was actually quite good. Because there was a lot of, you know, it was the subtle things like the body language as well. You know, and they had quite entertaining, when they were doing the song part, you know, it was the way they kind of used the visual metaphors and things like that in that. You know, there was some quite interesting stuff in that. You know.
Yeah,
So the whole like with when they kind of got, you know, there was the bit where they were being lorded over by all the like the main 6, and then basically them as big fillies and were lording over the. And basically, it's kind of like the visual metaphor side of things. I mean, I admit, it was confusing, but let's face it, when else hasn't? There's been times when it's been not literal interpretations of what's been happening.
There's...
You know.
I'll say one thing. They did a bit of experimentation with some of the facial angles.
Yeah, that was interesting as well.
Which I'll give them credit for. Also... one of the things that I did kind of have a bit of a gripe about in the story concept, I do actually kind of find from an animation perspective was interesting, was the animation of the fillies turned into adults. Because obviously when you're kind of animating kind of the adult ponies, they act a lot more reserved, but they had to do a lot more they had to kind of translate the fillies' motions into kind of their adult shape. So they were acting like fillies, kind of with their behaviour and that. They were running around and having fun and all that kind of thing. But they were doing it within their adult bodies, which kind of made it...
Actually, that's a good point. I mean, I didn't pick that up, so I think I would actually I was going to give it a 6, but all these good points and things like this, I think it would warrant a 7. I don't think an 8 would do, because it's not like there was anything draw-drop. But I would say a 7 is probably... There was definitely attention to detail put in this episode, so I am willing to give it a 7. And not just willing, I'm more than happy to give it a 7. So,
Yeah, I mean, I can't think of any kind of standout, amazing animation.
No, I mean, there was stuff that I could remember from it, from like, as you say, the way they were, when they were pleading, from like point of view sort of angle when they were
yeah, it was kind of not centered. It was kind of slightly off center. So it kind of made their faces look kind of weirdly shaped.
Yeah, I have to admit, okay, fair enough, but it was certainly an interesting angle, let's put it that way.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't give it a knockdown for that, because it was definitely more interesting. There was definitely better executed stuff in there.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't really criticising it so much as I thought that it was a new angle that I hadn't really seen before.
No,
I don't know if that's because I'm just not remembering the times they've used it before, or maybe it's just...
I don't know, I think it has... I don't think I've seen them ever do that before. I don't remember them doing it for definite, and I think if we had done, we would have remembered, because it's like, this is quite... You know, I don't think this... It's at least done really enough, but if it happened regularly, we would have not said anything, I don't think.
Yeah, but anyway, that's...
So I think 7 for the animation.
Yeah.
Entertainment-wise... yeah, I mean, for starters, seeing them as adults, adults, and I'm thinking, yeah, this is something that I think that they kind of did because they knew they couldn't do a story of them growing up later on, because they couldn't do the story, do stories of them as, say, older, characters.
Yeah.
Later on, because the show was going to end before they could even get to that point, and would have probably never even got to there.
Yeah.
I think it's probably the last time we're going to see them, and it's interesting that they tried to tie the loose end of what they would look like when they're adults, because it was nice to actually see that. So I would say, under entertainment points, that would knock it up above, say, just a 5. So it would be at least a 6 for that point. I think the story, for example, there is definitely some of the animation within. Well, we wouldn't call it animation.
And in terms of the entertainment in general, while the story was kind of average, like pretty much everything so far has been slightly above average. And I would say entertainment translates similarly. There were some parts that were kind of interesting. I did quite enjoy the... Was it the return? I can't remember if it was a return.
Oh yeah, the return of the train
station master.
Yeah, okay, yeah. I would give. I'm sorry, I'm going to have to give a point just for the callback for that. It's like, and the thing is, it's all because of the flipping of the inhaler. And the thing is, that poor guy, unless he's like the pony equivalent of Nurse Joy or something, it's like he gets stationed at the worst outposts. Like, he goes to the end of all the line, every end of the line place he could possibly be put at. I mean, he was put at the end of a swamp. He was put at the end of a desert. So, yeah, I mean, I think, to be honest, it's things like that make me want to say, okay, fine. I think, well, mind you, that would put it back into the humour, I suppose, but... I think, but as far as the entertainment is concerned, it was like nice to see him back. So I think. I mean,
the whole episode in general.
I think it was definitely entertaining, and I would actually give it a 7, because I think it doesn't kind of feel. I think if it was just a few interesting things, I would have probably just have it a 6, but because of actually getting, I mean, it is a little bit fan servicey, I admit, but it's nice to have the closure on what they will look like when they're adults. So
I would say,
we can go.
Seeing them as adults, that was quite entertainment, I will admit. Some of the aspects of the humour were good. The song, it had a song that was pretty entertaining.
I mean, we'll get on to the song
afterwards. It had some pretty good visualisation, I guess. But really, the entertainment factor, I would say it was probably a 7 out of 10. I enjoyed it while I was watching it.
Yeah,
I probably wouldn't go back and watch it again unless we were doing like kind of marathon or something.
I think to be fair, that is probably because of the rest of the stuff, to be honest. But, you know, it was still an entertaining episode.
Yeah.
And I think as far as the actual musical score, I think it was again, it was average. I think it wasn't, let's say, a lot of the Spike, a lot of the Spike songs that we've had before.
The song itself was pretty good.
I think it was good. It was more than a 6, I think. Because
it
wasn't boring. It wasn't bad.
It wasn't
average.
a bad song. It was, I would give it a 7.
Yeah.
And the reason I'd give it a 7 is it was a good song, but the tune and the lyrics have already kind of gone out of my head. So I enjoyed it in the moment, but if you asked me what the lyrics were or what the chorus was, I would be
it's not like Sounds of Silence, which was like one of my favourite songs, and I would, happily listen to that more again, because there was a lot of funny things happening in there and a lot of funny lyrics as well. But the thing is not just because it was funny, but the point, I get the point. It was well executed. It was well technically done. It sounded great. The lyrics, were okay, but the trouble is it was just okay.
I think the best example that I can think of when it comes to MLP and really good songs is Winter Wrap Up.
Oh god, yeah,
Yes, it was very first season, but tell me, the first time you watched Winter Wrap Up, you were humming that fucking chorus.
God, yeah.
Afterwards, it was so catchy.
Yeah, it was. It was absolute. It was.
That is an example of them going above and beyond in terms of music. When you can remember that song, and you can get it stuck in your head,
well, that was season 1. So like 9 seasons later. Oh no, not 9 seasons. It would be
9 seasons
8 seasons
later. I've not listened to the song for years, but I still know the fucking lyrics and the fucking tune.
Yeah, exactly. You have a good point there. That is a good point there. And I think the thing is, I would still give this a 7, but I think it would have to be up those levels to be 8, 9, and 10. It would have to be both.
It would have to be very memorable as a song and very catchy as a song to actually be able to to comfortably say, yes, okay, that's a pretty good one. But yeah, I would go with 7 for that as well.
Yeah. So I think, to be honest, so that basically means story 6.
6.
Then humour was 6 as
12.
well. And then animation, I think we gave it a 7. I think
19.
And then I think the entertainment, I think we gave it a 7 as well, didn't we?
26.
And I think we gave it a 7 for the score.
26. 33. So 33. That is a 66 out of 100 or 6.6 out of 10.
Yeah. So that is a 6.6. A 6.6. Yeah, I would say that's about right, because it's above average. It's definitely above average and not just above average.
I think we've kind of nailed this score system, because it does actually seem to consistently come out with the sort of numbers that we'd agree with in terms of score. I would definitely say, if I had to sort of say off the bat like what kind of score I'd give it as a whole, I'd probably say like between 6.5 and 7.5.
Yeah.
Or between 6 and 7.
Yeah, I think this... And the good thing about this is I think this keeps the score consistent no matter who we're got here, essentially. I think it kind of... because it's an average of all our different... So, yeah, I think... Anyway, I'm Starlight Flux.
I'm Skybound.
And let's end this.
And we'll see you next time.
See you.